Okay.
This is oh, sorry. Good morning. Am I on am I okay,
Yeah.
it is. Okay. Um, just before we start the meeting, it's been a while since we've done an entirely Zoom meeting. So let's just go over a few Zoom etiquette or before we get into the agenda. Just as a reminder to folks, um, when not talking, it's always best to put your audio on mute so that we don't hear all the background. I will be doing it because I'm going to hear lawnmowers in the background any second now. Um, and as well, I will do my best as your chair to look for little hands to be raised when someone wants to make a comment. It's always easier um, to go that route. And if I'm remiss, someone's going to remind me. I'm not worried. So when we're on an item and someone wants to talk, please use your. Does everybody know? I'm assuming we've done this enough on chat to know where the raise hand button is. But if not, reach out. Okay, without further ado, let me get into the agenda. 1 second here. Pull it up. Okay, so this is our OCP steering committee meeting for Monday, April 28th. Um, has let's do the approval of the agenda. Are there any late items that anybody would like to suggest for the agenda itself? Okay, seeing no hands. Oh, yes.
Sorry, Jim, I'll just say I sent some emails earlier today, just with the draft material.
Right.
So hopefully everyone has
Actually,
checked their
maybe we'll
inbox.
pause just for a quick second to get people on. Has everybody seen those? Because it's probably very important that everybody has at least got access to. I'm sure I didn't get through them all, obviously, but just make sure we have them on hand because I imagine we're going to be discussing a lot of them. So if you haven't, maybe take a moment and open up some of the attachments on the email. Okay. So no late items. Um, I'm we have a recommendation that we approve the agenda for our April 28th, 25 meeting. Do I have someone who would like to move that motion? Okay, Betty, all in favor? Okay, so moved. So our adoption of our minutes from our April 11th meeting. I'm hoping everybody's had a chance to have a look at those. Um, uh, Can I have someone who can move, or if there's any comments or questions about the minutes from our last meeting? Okay, seeing none. Um, Recommendation is that the minutes of the OCP steering committee meeting held on April 11th be adopted. Can I have, okay, David, all in favor? Okay, perfect, moved. Moving on. Um, do we have any public comments? Sarah? Or,
No, it doesn't look like it.
okay, excellent. And okay, so number 4, this is business arising from the minutes. So this was the public engagement for the OCP update for round 1 draft survey, and the draft survey provided as a late item. So Daniel, are you going to take us through that?
Sure, thank you. Yes, so I have we have seen the survey obviously one round, and we received this morning that second round of edits, and with it came comments that basically McElhaney's recommendation that we aim to shorten the survey a little bit. And thank you, Chana, as well for your email this morning. That was great, sort of looking at what are higher and lower priorities of things if we were looking to shorten it. We also received this morning that I sent around as sort of that other engagement material that we could go through as well. So I don't know if it's best to start with the survey. We've seen it before, so we're familiar with it. But it also might take a little bit longer to go through. So I don't know, maybe I'll put it up on the screen and just talk through big picture what we're we're doing here. 23, sure. All right. Does everyone see that okay? I'm looking at the survey. And Councillor Jurgensen, I'll try to talk through this. Okay, so this is the version 2 OCP update survey. So they've slightly lengthened the start of it in terms of trying to say what an OCP does in survey introduction. And in the material I sent round 2 is actually the landing page itself for the OCP content. So we can go there after as well to look at. So somebody, I think my understanding is somebody wouldn't necessarily link straight into the survey, but they would link into the landing page that would then they'd click the survey. So with the background information. So it's trying to provide the context. So what's an OCP? We're updating our OCP. The OCP is a long-term plan, outlines policies, saying why are we doing it? It's what this is trying to answer. So a lot has changed since it was adopted 14 years ago. Update will focus on housing, environment, accessibility, sustainability. This is where we're trying to say it'll provide a framework to meet provincial legislation requirements to provide 20 years of housing. So trying to frame why are we asking about housing? Support sustainable growth, protect environment, address key issues like housing, mobility, climate change, high-level framework for community development. So then it goes into section 1 is about OCP visions and goals. So I don't think this has changed. It outlines the vision statement in the 2011 OCP with the idea that we're trying to ask, like, is this still accurate? So this is the OCP quote. And then what this now does is it asks, does the vision statement accurately represent Bowen Island to you? And giving a range of responses for people if they strongly agree, neutral, disagree, strongly disagree. And then what values in the vision statement are most important to you? And so this one is staying with a paraphrase of the vision statement, I think because people have just read it here, and then so it's slightly shortened version here to rank top 3 choices from 1 to 3. So looking doing half the choices.
Daniel, do you want questions as we go along?
Sure, yeah.
So they've actually put in the actual wording out of the vision statement now, number 2.
I haven't double checked this, but yeah, does this
it looks like it because I took exception to the one wording for B. So I think it looks like they've done it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. My only concern is, okay, they've changed question 3. Thank you.
So in question 3, are there any values that should be changed, added to, or removed from the current vision statement?
Okay, they got a typo there. There any values that should be changed, added to, or removed from the current vision statement that should be added to the updated? That sentence doesn't quite make sense.
So almost it's like, we should just do this. Like, are there any values that should be changed, added to, or removed from the current vision statement?
Well, yeah.
Because, yeah. And then next it asks about the goals. So this is the 12 goals in our current OCP. And I haven't double checked this, but I know our feedback was, again, that they just quote from those goals rather than trying to provide like a shortened synthesis version. So I think in the first draft, it just said, like, talked about natural environment, and now it's quoting that same language of the goal. That's to preserve and protect unique amenities in natural environment. So borrowing from the trust language. And then similar question 5 is asking again, are there any goals that you think should be changed, added to, or removed from the updated OCP? So similar question. Okay, and then the sections have been reordered so that section 2 is now the environment and sustainability priorities section. Okay, and so this wanted to, I think, had been a single question in the previous draft survey. So now question 1 is asking about what are the most important development challenges that Bowen Island is currently facing or may face in the future, and asking to rank the top 3. And it talks about servicing capacity, waste reduction and disposal, infrastructure conditions, affordability, population growth, resilience to extreme weather events or other. And then number 2 is asking, what do you think are the 3 most important sustainability challenges that Bowen Island is currently facing? Food security, sense of place, mobility, safety, social diversity, natural conservation, or other. And then it's asking, I see a hand from Councillor Getty.
Yes, thanks. Question number 3 there, when you're talking about in 2, what are the 3 most significant sustainability? And then in 3, you focus in just on mobility. And I'm wondering if what you want is for people to prioritize, what are those, or what are the challenges to any of those, whichever one they consider to be the priority. Does that make sense?
Yep. Writing a note here as we go. Okay. And then this question 4 was previously a question that talked about bylaws. And so now it's about policy. Should the OCP create policies that encourage nature-based infrastructure and green development? And giving examples. Before I go on, I guess I just want to open up for people. Are there any questions people want to discuss about this section 2 and the environment and sustainability priorities?
Oh, damn it. Sorry, I don't have get at my chat. I think question 3 was there before, because I have a recollection that that's not a new question.
Correct. I mean, I think last time I don't know if my chat.
It was
I think last time it
was the first
led off the
question within the section.
So now it's coming after, after people are asked about the more important challenges, and then this
So
is
it's
like a
just
specific
reordered.
question. Yeah. Eddie?
I'm sorry, I'm a bit slow with this. Just to go back a bit, under 1, servicing waste reduction, I'm not sure that I know what we mean by infrastructure conditions versus, if I'm not sure, I'm not sure other people will be, is
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say. Servicing capacity, how is that different? Are we
Rather
talking
than
about water and
degenerating-
sewer there?
Servicing capacity would pick up the sewer, and infrastructure conditions would pick up aging infrastructure, all the potholes in the road and water mains needing to be replaced and all that sort of stuff.
I think some examples would be helpful.
I do too. Just
What Allison just mentioned, I think is fantastic.
Yeah. That's a great point, because you may look and be like, I don't know, they both seem the same. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Maddie. Did anyone else have comments about this section before I scroll down? Okay. And then section 3 is the community growth and development priorities. And so this is then where it is pulling in that our provincial requirements. So the updated OCP needs to provide 20-year housing need. I find this a little odd, I guess, maybe because either it's approximately 1,393 or it's, it
And
is
it's such a precise number.
1,393. Yeah. So either we would go like approximately 1,400, or I'll just say, I just wanted to say
1,400 sounds good.
1,400.
Or do that approximately. All right. So then in this section, we lead off asking, what do you like most about being on Bowen that should be preserved or enhanced as the community grows? What are the biggest items related to growth and development to address? And these are open-ended in the short term, 1 to 5 years, in the medium term, 5 to 10 years, in the long term, 10 to 20 years. Bowen Island is projected to grow by 2,100 people over the next 20 years. The updated OCP is the 20-year plan for managing this growth. What are your ideas about how to balance this growth with the natural environment of the island? Sorry, JD. JD, go ahead.
Okay, if you go back up to the 1,400 number, is it possible to say that the existing bylaws and zoning and whatever allow for that, so that this is not new, and we have to find space or make space?
Yeah.
Does our current OCP?
Yes, the current OCP has that number. So in theory, like this OCP could have the same, like if the land use plan doesn't change at all, it would still meet that number. Yeah. But I don't know. Yeah. It's sort of how to frame it, I guess, because it's still then like that would still be growth of 1,400 units of housing that would be needed. Yeah.
This makes it confusing then for number 7 then. What does projected mean?
Yeah. And
Why
why
don't
is
you
this
just say
different? So I
housing
think that-
units rather than in units of housing?
Yeah. Okay, let me finish this thought.
The units of housing, or oh yeah, that's not people. Right.
Yeah.
Would it make sense to distinguish between just single family homes and affordable housing? Because yes, the number it's true that 1,400 houses could be built, but if they're all unaffordable, then what does that number mean really?
Yeah.
That gets confusing too, because then a housing unit, then it will vary on household size, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't mean that more affordable means necessarily more people.
Yeah. I mean, so the provincial requirement is we do the interim housing needs report, which breaks it down like more detailed, but then the provincial requirement is that you meet that, like that end number, which is this number.
Is there some way to link some of these reports to the question? So if somebody wanted to go and research the backup?
Because I think it gives a false sense of confidence that we're okay.
I mean, put in your report, Bowen's projected 20-year housing needs report. Somehow so they know there's been a report done, and maybe we have a list of reference documents, which one of them would be the housing needs report.
Okay. And then I just see a backlog of hands. We'll go to Councillor Getty.
Thanks. I was down to number 7 in the projected 2,100 people. And that's a projection by some, but not necessarily everyone. And that I think links in with capacity as well. So if some people are, some projections are that the population will grow by 2,100, put some sort of a qualifier on it. And we may not be able to support that many people. We don't really know.
You're right. And maybe this is confusing in terms of up here we said, well, we need to have 1,400 units.
Yeah.
Maybe it's too confusing than having a different measure here.
Exactly. We're switching our units of measure, and that's not going to work.
I think we need to go back to hand raising. There was Adam has his hand raised.
Yeah.
Is this about this? I'm assuming, Adam. So
Oh, there's my hand.
It was to make the same comment that David just made.
okay.
So then does this work instead of, this is just my edit as we go, is like to take out the reference to the projection, because I think it's, and instead we'll just be like, it's to manage the 20-year plan for managing growth on Bowen Island. And up here we've said, well, we need to include this much.
Yeah.
And then we're asking, because really this is whatever the number is, we're saying Bowen is looking like it will grow in the future, will continue to grow. What are your ideas about how to balance this growth with the natural environment of the island? That's the key thing we're asking for questions for.
But now nobody knows what growth means.
Well, in this context, it's
Population
1,400 additional units.
Yeah, because that's what's up here.
I can't find my hand down here. It's all changed.
It's under the React.
React.
There's like a heart logo. If you click that, it'll give you options.
I don't have a logo now. All it gives me is recognize hand gestures. So is my hand up now? No,
No.
it's not.
No. Allison, did you have a comment?
Well, yeah, it was the bit about, it's population growth we're talking about, and I don't know why we're not saying population growth.
Okay. We could, is that? All right. And then just to finish this section, oh, there's more. Okay. So then question 8, to provide more housing on Bowen for a variety of incomes and abilities, where would you focus growth? Please select your top 3 choices. So here is a simplified list. So I'd love to know people, and where it just says the Cove, East Side, Mid Island, South Shore,
South
evenly
side.
across the island. Yeah,
And where's west side?
I know.
And north side?
It almost begs that you
Is
need
this
a map.
You need a map of like, where do you think, click where people's houses should go, which I guess is the mapping website that we can look at later.
Yeah, I'm wondering
'Cause
if
I mean,
there's some way to have some either a hyperlink or something that shows you the differentiator. Because
Yeah.
this is better than trying to list out every little neighborhood before that would inevitably we'd miss something. But
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, I think the key for this question kind of is like saying 2011 OCP focus was growth happens in Snug Cove, in the Cove. Right? And growth outside is supposed to be
I think Seymour Bay
know,
is designated as a secondary growth
yeah.
area.
Okay, sure. But you know, it's like, is that still division, or are people going to say we think
Yeah.
it should be more across the island? But yeah, I wonder if we could have a map that just like shows the different areas.
does it?
Sorry.
If it's true that we already have 2 designated growth, the Seymour and the Cove, then just in terms of education of lots of new people, that should be indicated somehow.
Mhm.
Yeah, further to that, maybe Daniel, where you were starting to go there is that you state that the OCP has a growth focus on the Cove and Seymour Bay. Would you one way you could then just leave the option should these remain or evenly across the island or some other area? I mean, I don't know. I mean, it gets very confusing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe if we even just identify that those are the 2 kind of pre-existing areas of growth, and then the option, which is G now, evenly across the island, is like an alternative. And then I think finally leave the other
Right.
ones as well.
Okay.
Daniel, check the OCP. I'm not sure if it says Cowan Point or Seymour Bay. So,
And that may actually be even more confusing to folks who, especially when they see growth happening outside of those 2 areas in a more substantive way. Like, I guess what would that be? Mid-Island, in around Grafton Lake, etc. So
Yeah.
Maybe we just need to keep it simple.
oh, the KISS principle.
Yeah.
I mean,
Alright.
one option, Dan, like it could be that
Yeah.
you leave the existing areas of focus and then just have G. Like there's like 3 options. I don't know.
So it'd be like
Like I think the question, or like kind of like the intent of the question, is to say like we have these existing areas of growth designated. Does that still make sense? Or should growth be focused elsewhere or evenly? Sorry, David, I saw your hand up. Only I jumped in there.
So Adam, sorry. Just clarification on Adam. Are you saying that we just say not outside of those areas, keep it simple to outside of those areas without specifying where?
Yeah, maybe.
That's what my hand was about too. I think we could generate a giant list and instead either simplify it or identify where the density is now and ask how people feel about that. Because getting into H seems like a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And going more detailed, we would have been like all the way to Z or something.
Exactly.
Like, yeah. And I think especially with this one, yeah, it's like I think some of that's what the mapping exercise is trying to get is like if people want to be very detailed, like this is where I think stuff should happen. Well then, yeah, that's a mapping exercise question.
Councilor Jurgensen has his hand up.
Okay. If we go with the list that is being suggested here, I think we have the cove on the current proposed list. We would need to add the secondary growth area and call it out, even if, say, for example, it is Seymour Bay, which would be south side of the island. I think we would still need to call out Seymour Bay specifically. If we go with the is the current growth area working, we could possibly go with is the current growth area working? Yes or no. Please specify where you'd like to see growth, and then have that somewhat open-ended and people can write in the neighborhood, and then that can be tallied through, when the data is being processed. Just a thought.
Okay. Right. I may keep going through and we can revisit this one, I think.
Yeah.
Just in
I think
interest of-
as well, Daniel, I think where the feedback the committee's giving you on this, we don't need to completely wordsmith it to death, but I think you get the gist of where it is, because it is going to get confusing.
Yeah.
The way it is there.
Yeah.
So do your best.
Okay. Okay. All right. Question 9. What housing types do you feel are most needed on Bowen? So in this case, then we go single detached homes with accessory dwellings, single detached homes on smaller lots, small homes on permanent foundations, small scale multi-unit housing, e.g. duplexes, triplexes, multiplexes, townhomes, row homes, etc. Residential low-rise apartments 3 to 6 stories, mixed-use low-rise apartments 3 to 6 stories with ground level commercial. Other.
Fritz has a question. Go ahead, Fritz. You're on mute.
Fritz, you're just on mute.
I find the small homes on permanent foundations. I mean, all these things have permanent foundations.
Yeah.
What does it make it really smaller?
It's the tiny homes project.
It's trying to be tiny homes.
Okay. And then I think that E and F, both of them say low rise, but 3 to 4 came out of the old building code, and that was what people are used to. That is 3 to 4. And the reason why 3 to 6 exists is that the government, for normal wood framing, has increased the height to 6 stories. And then maybe the other thing is, would you like to go higher? Most people may say no, but if you ask them, other maybe means
Going higher.
higher, because like in a certain point, somebody may believe that if you build one giant tower, you're all done. But like at the Broad Street Bridge. But I'm just saying is that if you ask questions, so you have to say, or would you go, or would you like higher buildings or so?
Well, other will pick that up, won't it?
Sorry, we have Betty next up.
Sorry,
it's okay. We'll come. I'll put you on the list. I know you don't have a hand there.
Yeah.
Betty, go ahead.
Okay, I didn't immediately pick up the difference between small scale and residential, small scale multi-unit and residential mixed use. I assume mixed use is the one that we've been using all over the Cove, where we have commercial buildings on the main floor and then we have apartments above them. And I guess we have that up in Artisan Square too. I don't think that's really apparent in this list. If you're not in the industry.
Yeah, that's why just as I was doing this, I was like, maybe that we just are asking one. It's like, do you want, apartments? I don't know what apartment or mixed use buildings.
We must have
'Cause, yeah,
had
that's
language for it in the current OCP because we did a lot of it. The
Yeah.
residence apartments above commercial. Anyway,
Yeah.
I don't think that's clear to me.
Right.
Okay, thanks, Betty. Next up, we had Councilor Morris.
I think you've picked up. I was going to comment on the tiny homes. That's the Cam Rolfe proposal is an
Okay.
example of that.
Right.
Okay. Then we have, I'm not sure which one it is, one of the other two councilors. Councilor Jurgensen, go ahead.
Hi. So with regards to multi-use, I think it's been stated, but I want to emphasize that mixed between what, we definitely want to specify that there for people to understand it. I think the smaller homes on permanent foundations, could we just replace that with the word tiny homes on
He's
permanent?
done that.
I
Oh,
think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
sorry.
Sorry, that was just my live edit as I sit here tweaking it. But yes, that's great.
Okay. Betty? Oh, you're on mute. Can you, Betty?
Sorry,
wait.
Betty, you're still muted.
You're on mute.
Sorry. I thought along with tiny homes, we've also got what Rondi's done in the marina with the liveaboards for
Hmm.
seasonal
Yeah,
housing,
like-
whatever. They're kind of non-standard housing, I guess.
Yeah.
Innovative housing.
Okay, thanks.
Daniel, I might weigh in on this one.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
reflecting on this, I worry that the list starts again too long, and then as well, we're starting to get into things that maybe the average Bowen Islander, unless they're really up on what's happening in council, will go, I don't know what all these things are. And so just maybe go back and just have one last look at it before we submit and see if there's some way of making it a little simpler for, let's say, someone who doesn't follow council.
Sure.
And Betty, you had another comment there too?
Yeah, is it really necessary for us to identify housing in that way? Could it just be, we need more family housing, or we need single, working people, that sort of thing? More categories, and let the professionals figure out what the actual building types are.
It's a good point.
I mean, I
Adam,
think.
wanna weigh in on this?
I can appreciate the comment, but I think it actually is important though, because we kind of get to that in the question below, and this one, it kind of is about like what we're building, and that's like an important question because like there's a big difference between single family house and then multi-unit. So I think that that's an important one to keep, in my opinion.
Right. In the
I was
build,
gonna say, I think so too. This is getting
built
into,
form.
somebody
Yeah.
applies to build a fourplex on Adams on Whitesale, and it's like, is that currently our OCP says no? It says only like single family home if you're outside of the cove. So it's important to have some sort of feedback.
Okay.
But then yes, the second question then goes into what purpose-built housing choices do you think should be offered or expanded on Bowen? And this again has got quite a list, and we're asking people to rank their top 6. So it's independent seniors housing, assisted living seniors housing, supportive housing, in bracket for mental health, addiction, or other needs, below market or non-market housing, purpose-built rental housing, long-term secure rentals, housing for families, 3+ bedroom units, accessible housing for persons with disabilities, in brackets ground-oriented, mixed-use housing, e.g. housing in the same building as shops or services, smaller homes, e.g. detached secondary suites or cluster homes, co-op housing, members own shares in collectively managed property, Co-housing, individual homes are owned, shared spaces are owned collectively. Seasonal or workforce housing, and then other. I see Adam's hand.
Oh, sorry, that was from before.
All right.
But
Okay.
I mean, my initial thought is that there are a lot of options here, and
Yeah.
some of them I think probably could be collapsed within other ones. Like, seasonal and workforce housing could potentially be under like purpose-built rental, or like I don't know, I haven't really thought it through, but I mean, like, there are some here that seem that we could probably get rid of.
Councillor Jurgensen?
I do think the words ground level, ground oriented in the accessible housing. I'm all for accessible housing, but I don't think we should be limiting it to just ground floor. If somebody wants to go through the process of making it accessible on multiple levels.
Okay.
I just think it's superfluous wording at this point.
Okay, great.
And then I just wanted to speak to accessible housing, supportive housing, and assisted housing. Well, I think that there's been over the years some talk of whether those definitions in our zoning bylaw should be combined. I really think they do definitely serve very different population segments. To the point where it says supportive housing for mental health, addictions, or other needs. I think we might just want to put accessible housing just above that, just so that it's clear that accessible housing is a separate item, because somebody might see other needs and assume that includes accessible housing, which they are somewhat different.
So are you meaning reorder it? Sorry, I can't
Yes,
get my hand
that's
to
what I
go
mean
up.
with those two. I mean to reorder, put accessible housing above supportive housing.
Okay.
Just so if somebody's looking for accessible housing, they pick that one rather than thinking that other needs under supportive housing means that.
Okay.
Sorry.
Fritz, did you have?
Yeah, I thought that maybe it's better to first have question 10 and then 9, because 10 is really type of housing, and then 9 is more just a form of housing, like you should be high or low, something like that,
Yeah. Okay.
And then for what Alex was saying, of course, again, building codes require everything to be accessible to some degree. So then because accessibility is a requirement for the building code in every building, and that gives a percentage of how much and to which level. So then I'm thinking it should be more specific if there is something for, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like
right. So somebody's like, oh yeah, it's accessible bathroom. We're done. That's all that it meant.
That's what I mean. Yeah. So
yeah.
Now they use the word adaptable. So there's two things. There is accessible and adaptable. So for the building code now, you have to make sure your home or your dwelling is adaptable, which means that you can make it with minor changes accessible. So the building code is setting the bar high to the point that it actually increases housing costs because all the units have to be bigger. There's nothing wrong with that principle, but you can certainly ask the question, but it should be phrased in a way maybe more general, because accessibility really applies to every form of building.
And Councillor Jurgensen?
I think that could be fixed similar to like the purpose-built workforce housing, where it's like purpose-built housing for purpose-built accessible housing for persons with disabilities. Like if that's built with that in mind from day one, it's going to look very different than somebody who's building, as Fritz pointed out, adaptable homes. So we might just want to add purpose-built to the beginning of that.
All right, thanks. And then my other thought with this one is maybe I would cut the mixed use housing because it seems different. It's like, if the housing, it's not like targeting targeting types of housing the same way. It's more like maybe it works better that way, but
Agree with that. Like we're kind of getting that in the previous question about housing or
Yeah.
building type.
Yeah, it's like more built form than it is about dealing with the question
Yeah.
of housing.
yeah. And Alex?
I like the wording there though, where it says with shops. Like the wording it has about mixed use, we could possibly move that wording to the question or to the answer about mixed use in
Brilliant.
question.
Yeah.
I've lost track now. Have we moved 9 and 10 in the question about all the different types?
Yeah. But that's great, including. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then we'll go down. So question 11, what land use does Bowen need more of to foster island-based economic sustainability? Please select your top 3 choices. Asks residential housing, commercial, e.g. retail service areas, industrial, e.g. manufacturing, warehousing, agricultural, e.g. farming, infrastructure, e.g. roads, utilities, parks, areas intended for recreation, environmental protection, areas intended for conservation, mixed use, commercial, residential, and other uses combined in an area, other.
Daniel, before we get to this question and move off of housing, can I just ask a question? I had brought this up in the early email chat or whatever, just about how we and no doubt we have obligations to look at housing and etc. But how do we address through survey those folks who don't want to see any growth? Because if they don't see a space where they can say that, then the whole process is at risk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're gonna, this is, blah, 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 blah. But we just need to find a space in a survey. So someone just, if that's their view, they've been able to give the view.
Yeah.
Is either it's, in an other or something, but I'm just a little worried that, I mean, we know there's a component out there who don't want growth. We just need to be able to provide a way in which they can say that. Where would that come?
Sure. I see David's hand up.
Thanks, Daniel. I hear you about that, Jim, but we've done that. We've done, I don't want any more growth. And there's nothing that as a community we can really do or have done to stop growth. And I get registering the intention, but I sure don't want to give people the idea that we can rule out growth.
No, I'm not saying that. In fact, actually, if you read this survey, there's no question that there is a focus on how to manage that growth. But you will have some folks who have an opinion that there shouldn't be growth. And what I think our survey would do in 2 ways. One is find out to what extent that exists, so that we know to manage it during the process. And then just through survey we want to hear from all residents, right? That they've had an opportunity to voice that. And it could be one of the ways was in and other, including your comments around, I don't want to open it up, but I want to be able to find a space where it would be obvious where they could put.
I agree completely. I just wanted to make sure we weren't talking about opening it up.
No, I mean, but it would, some folks, well, I mean, we've seen this happen in municipalities of late, right? Even around the provincial stuff. I think West Van did, where it went right up to the council where they didn't want any more growth. We need to find a way of hearing that or knowing how much that exists. That's my point there. I see some hands now. I don't know if you're Adam and Fred. Adam, did you want to weigh in on this?
Yeah, I think probably that's question 7. Because then, sorry, Dan, if you could, I know you're just scrolling up and down here. That's kind of a question that's open-ended and it speaks to, like, I presume that's where we would get that feedback. because people will see that and they'll say, do we need this growth? Like, I think that's where people would express that sentiment.
Like people would say it's not possible to balance the growth.
Yeah.
We need to not have it.
Because I mentioned this in the email chain and kind of what David was getting at there. Like, I understand what you mean, Jim, about there being a risk of not acknowledging that sentiment within the community. I also think that there is a bigger risk to the perception that that's a viable option for this OCP. Like,
But it is a viable option to not go beyond the current OCP. And
yeah. But I think if we just have to be very careful about how we frame that, because if the perception or the understanding of that sort of content is that there is a no growth option, and that's what people believe as they do this process, when we get to the end and they say, hey, what is this? I think that's like the big risk, in my opinion.
okay. Rich, do you want to weigh in?
Yeah, just we work on all kinds of projects in our office, and we noticed that municipalities really implement Bill 44 completely different ways. Like West Vancouver said, okay, we allow every single family house to have, a secondary suite and a coach house, and then they go through the numbers, and then they basically comply with having a few towers close to the bridge, right? Or in the upper, but it's more like how much does it protect people's existing way of living? So the North Shore is like that. Then if you go to places like Burnaby or Vancouver, they just implement Bill 44, or they're ahead of the game, and they basically create a huge amount of development potential. So the whole mindset is different.
But I guess what we're trying to get at is how can we just put in a survey an opportunity for someone to have a contrary view to growth, not at this, and just knowing how much that might exist. Hold that thought.
The only thing I'm trying to say, Jim, is most people live in single-family homes, and the OCP update is going to affect that. So then if you look at it from their point of view, what does that mean for me? So, and what I'm saying is that different municipalities have completely different expectations how that affects your property. So people may be a bit restless that I think the North Shore has basically protected single-family environment by restricting the growth within single-family neighborhoods, and then having specific growth centers. Like if they look at the North Shore, or it's clear that they have growth centers and areas that they protect. Do we address it somehow to give some comfort to people, or?
Well, I guess at this point, I mean, we're trying to get it through a survey on where people can give us views on where they think and how growth should occur on Bowen, and just making sure that we're asking right questions.
What would you do? What would you like to see in your single-family neighborhood? Because that's when you get the real answers out. It's all about the neighbors. Everything is okay until it affects your lot. I know that for sure as an architect.
We still have a few more. Was that Councillor Jurgensen? You had your hand up, yes?
I did. I think we may have hit it earlier. Like there was a question about, we were looking at changing from a list of areas to do these areas in the current OCP work and for future growth development. And I think we could possibly solve the problem we're talking about by having an additional answer to the yes, no. Versus, do these areas still work that are in the OCP? You could have answers such as yes, additional growth beyond the current OCP is possible in these areas. Yes, these areas still work, but additional growth beyond the current OCP is not viable. And then a no, please specify. I don't know. Just kind of my two.
Yeah,
cents.
I don't know the answer to that either, and that's why I sort of raised it. But I was more worried that it, if it is how to ensure that folks who we've asked to fill out a survey don't feel like it's so completely leading that they abandon it or start to either raise questions with the entire process itself. Because there is an option of not, beyond, not be no further growth beyond the OCP, or much like we had debates around a certain park, etc. It's like, it's not that I'm against anti-growth. I'm against growth as long as these preconditions are met, kind of thing. So we have to find out ways in which to tease that out on where people's views are. And then, of course, there will be the response to the survey. And so for those who say, in fact, we don't want any growth and further exist today, there will be that kind of, we've heard this from folks. Here is the situation, blah, 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 blah. So.
And that's where I was proposing,
yeah,
because we need the growth in the current OCP just to meet the provinces.
Right. And there's no doubt, but people, and again,
people still have that.
A lot of folks don't even understand that that is the case. And so part of this is part education and part then getting their views on stuff. Adam, was that hand from before, or is this a new one?
It's a new hand, but I think Betty's preceded mine.
Okay, sorry, I missed that. Go ahead, Betty.
I don't care if you go first, but I'm just thinking where we do give that option about how you manage balance growth with natural environment. The pushback I can imagine from people is ferries, transportation, buses, that kind of thing. So maybe it's not balanced growth with the natural environment only. There's also some part of a question there about managing the growth in balance with our infrastructure or something like that. That sort of creates a little more openness.
That's good. Adam, you're up then.
I think that's a great suggestion by Betty. And I also think Councillor Jurgensen's suggestion about the following question is like
on 8.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of doing it. Is there is no growth option because that is not possible. So then really what you're doing is you're making a distinction between the previous OCP level and then having an option for more growth beyond that. Like that's kind of indirectly getting to that question of like scale of growth, without giving an option that is not viable. So I think Councillor Jurgensen's suggestion was great.
Okay. So can I have clarification on that, Daniel? No growth is not sorry.
Sorry, I wish I could figure out how to get this hand to go up and it won't work. The existing OCP, if I'm recalling correctly, allows for growth up to 7,500 people.
It doesn't. It has a population that it says like the current growth would go towards. Like it's envisioning a community of that amount.
Oh,
but
I thought it said no more population, no higher than what was in the previous OCP. And that was all done by a formula where they took the OCP designations multiplied by 2.5 units, people per unit, and came to 7,500.
Right.
I mean, it's based on, it talks about dwelling units, right? Or lots, I think.
Yeah. And then you multiply those by 2.5 and that's where the 7,500 came from.
Yeah.
Right.
Can I just check in for a sec with everybody? So I know our meeting, I think, was scheduled to go till 10:35, which will be in 7 minutes. We haven't yet made it through the whole survey, and I know that in particular the consultants were looking for feedback on questions to remove to shorten it. And then we had wanted to go through some of the pop-up engagement material and like scheduling of additional events that volunteers wanted to participate in. So maybe I'll check in with you, Jim, if should
Yeah,
I
you
keep
know
going
what? And
through or will
I
it be-
was remiss in looking. I looked at what I thought was in the Zoom invite, which was for 2 hours, without noticing that the actual agenda said 1 hour.
That's what, yeah, I was clued into as well. I was like, oh.
So, oops, I've lost everyone. There we
Hmm.
are. Yeah, so well, let's start there. Let's just pause right there. Did people's expectations in terms of time, um, was it were we expecting a 2 hour meeting or a 1 hour meeting? Um, I two, okay,
Okay.
yeah. Okay, so then would it be okay for us to continue beyond what we actually have in the written agenda and go to the full 2 hours?
Yes.
Yes, one thumbs up. Thanks, David. David will be here and
Okay.
Shanna will be here. Excellent. I'll be here too. Okay. Okay. That's good.
Okay,
Okay.
thank
So
you,
I
Jim.
think
I just
David,
didn't want to lose people as we went.
so as your chair, I apologize for totally missing that point. I was about to say we've only scheduled half an hour for this item, and we're already at. But is there? I do think it's a good idea that we get to the other material. Daniel, is there anything on the survey itself or anyone else? Is that a way of doing it, like not going through the rest of the survey? Because how many more questions are we at?
We had just started on 11 and it goes down till 23.
Oh God, okay.
And some of the questions were, I mean, we're almost done, I guess, this section, and then section 4 is about the demographic side. And then kind of, I think the focus too is like, what do we think is not necessary?
Right.
Like the consultant's recommendation was like, it should be 2 to 5 questions shorter. And I think that was the same feedback we got from Chana as well, in the email that came just before or just almost coincided with my email saying, you know, we should have what are fewer questions we could remove?
Could I make a suggestion, Daniel?
Yeah.
Like maybe we just get through the last couple like meaty questions and then
Sure.
folks could follow up about questions to cut. And then maybe you could like consolidate those as best as possible, like what
Sure.
folks' preferences is, because I think that could be like that'll eat up too much time.
Yeah.
And then yeah.
I would agree. And I think maybe one of the things that we could focus on, because there's no way we're going to design this entire survey by committee, is the key issues of sort of what is really popping out for folks. Again, remembering we come from different backgrounds and our lenses will show us ways in which that we're seeing something that looks out of place or not right, etc. Councillor Jurgensen has his hand up.
Okay, sorry.
Oh.
I recognize that we have a very packed agenda at this point. There is some matters of accessibility with both the pop-ups and this. I didn't want to add a late item at the beginning. There is, as I said, something both to do with the survey and the pop-ups. I hope we can get to it as part of each item. I will do it as a separate item at the end if we must, but just wanted to throw that out there. I was going to raise it at the end of the survey section.
Should we continue on with the survey then and see if it's you can make a decision whether or not you want to bring it then or during the other items.
Okay.
Okay, Daniel. I think we're
Okay.
back in your hands.
Okay, so then question 11 is asking, what land uses does Bowen need more of to foster island-based economic sustainability? And it goes residential housing, commercial, e.g. retail service areas, industrial, e.g. manufacturing, warehousing, agricultural, e.g. farming, infrastructure, e.g. roads, utilities, parks, areas intended for recreation, environmental protection, areas intended for conservation, mixed use, commercial, residential, and other uses combined in an area, and then other. And then if not, I'll just keep going to question 12 and can
In
always
number
circle back.
11,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't understand why is the word land uses there? What does Bone Island need more of to foster island-based economic sustainability? I mean, it's, yeah.
What's that adding? Okay.
More
And Shannon?
population if you want to have sustainable commercial business and sustainable work.
Jonna, do you want to weigh in on this?
Just a quick question, not to belabor that point here, Daniel, but like, is this a question around density versus not density? Just curious what other folks think about that, and whether you want to sort of tease that out here, because I know in conversations I've had with others, there's definitely a conversation around densification and non-densification. So I'm just curious what people think about that.
I know, I was kind of curious. I'm curious about this question too, because I go, yeah, what are we expecting people to say, or what are we expecting to do with it? Because maybe I'd say, people said, oh, we need more commercial spaces. Maybe people say that, or maybe people don't. But I don't know. People might say we need more parks. Yeah, I guess I'm a little unclear, David.
Yeah, it kind of loses its focus around if it is economic sustainability to be then more just generally about land use. What land uses do you want on your island, as opposed to what are the types of land uses that would foster economic sustainability? David has his hand up as well. Do you want to weigh in here?
Well, yeah, I see it as a land use question and relate it to the development of Lot 1, for instance, that it's an opportunity for the community to indicate how the land that the community can develop should be used. I don't know what kind of uptake we'll get from this question, but I think we need something like this in there to see what people's priorities are.
Okay, and Betty, do you want to?
I'm just wondering if we're really talking about economic sustainability.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe we could drop residential and parks because we got them elsewhere. Sort of shorten it up a little. Not even sure if that's where environmental protection belongs.
Or mixed use. Like, I mean, is it what it was the
Well,
what is
commercial
the
residential I can understand, although we also have that under residential, right?
Right. What I was thinking, if this is about economic sustainability, how those uses are put together doesn't necessarily relate to that unless it's just about building stuff. Okay, Melanie, you have something you want to say there?
Yeah, I would like to keep the housing in for question 11, because that's the most feedback that I get. You can't find workers without the housing. So
then maybe it should be about housing.
Workforce housing.
Workforce housing.
Or affordable housing. Affordable workforce housing. Anyways, I just didn't want to see that dropped.
Right.
Yeah. I have a feeling that we're going to miss the mark on the answers to this question. Because when I read residential housing, I was thinking, oh, do they mean because we have all these people working here, building stuff and buying stuff, stuff like that. But that's a whole other angle that Melanie has raised. So I think that Daniel, do you have any suggestions on how we deal with this in, I don't know, 30 seconds?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Betty, did we get you already, or is this new one?
No, my other comment is under agriculture. I know that sounds like farming, but on Bowen, it looks quite different sometimes. Like cideries and tiny homes. Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. I'm going to go on to question 12. Ruminate. So 12 is what types of recreation features should be prioritized in new development projects? Please select your top 3 choices: playgrounds, open spaces, walking paths, trail networks, and access infrastructure, e.g. trailhead, parking areas, facilities, rubbish bins. Beach access and infrastructure, sport infrastructure, e.g. courts, pump tracks, skate park, other. Adam.
I think like this maybe could be like a phase 2 or later survey question, because this is only really applying to like a very small number of developments. And if we're looking to cut questions that maybe aren't critical for this phase of the planning process, this could be one. Like, I think it's a great question. I just don't know how needed it is right now.
Yeah, it's very specific to new development. Yeah.
Like, I'm assuming we're talking about community amenity sort of style requests when there's a big development. And like, that's what, like the bell ringer, or like it's a very specific question.
Okay. Does anyone disagree with that? Okay.
Oh, we got one.
Oh, who disagreed? Oh no, we got one cut.
No, I was just saying we have one question that we can cut.
Awesome. Okay. And the next question: what can Bowen Island do to develop in a way that is accessible to all residents, including those with disabilities? And there's just a text box. Please provide a response. So open-ended. All right. And then section 4 then is the like demographic section.
Right.
So it's asking how to describe. They greatly expanded the like commuter option, which is, even as I was trying to explain to them, it's like, it's quite a complicated question for a lot of people. Do you work on Bowen? It's like, well, I work sometimes, and sometimes I travel off Bowen, and we're asking your age, your rent, your household size, your postal code.
Wait a minute.
And then it's how do you wish
postal code?
Sorry.
Postal code?
This is this question. Yeah. Your postal
Don't
code.
we all have the same postal code almost? Except that was on off island. Is that what we're gonna get there?
Yeah. So the note here, the above question is intended to help the project team to delineate responses from Bowen Island residents versus off-island respondents, and to identify any outlier responses and which part of the island the respondent is from. It can be made optional.
Well, it's not going to help us on the island. So it's either just, are you on island or off island?
I know. Well, it's if you're 1G1 or 1G2.
Do we even still have? I thought it all went to 1G2, but I couldn't.
No, it's 0, 1, 2, and I think we even have 3.
0. I thought 0 was okay, but I think at the very least would be like make optional. It's gonna get hookup for people. Betty?
That there are many people who are either seasonal or for other reasons use the post office, not their home code. So I don't think it really helps us.
Okay. I tend to agree. Like if we're looking to cut questions, I would, not that it's like a great deal of time for people we're saving by cutting it, but it seems less. And then how do people feel about just, maybe we'll say the range of demographic questions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like, do we think we could shorten this section, or do we think they're all pretty, Councillor Jurgensen?
No, it was
Or
Getty.
Judy? Sorry.
A lot of that is in the census. If you don't want it included here, you can pull it from that.
I don't think it's necessarily census. I'm sorry, just getting the data. It's to correlate the response to the demographic information. So, for example, you're all for growth, but you live off island. I mean, I'm being facetious here. Finding but it's, or you live on island. So it's just for us to gauge the demographic and to the entire survey response.
Yeah, so I see the first one important. Yeah, engaging it. And then I guess I'm like between 14 and 15, I wonder if we need both of them. Like they're interesting, but I don't know how much more detailed we're gonna get. So 14, what's currently listed at 14, do you commute to the Lower Mainland for work or school? if you work, which best describes your employment location?
Councillor Jurgensen.
Sorry, going back to the postal code question, I think then it should really, if we're trying to correlate demographics to the responses, we just need to ask where a person's primary residence is, whether it's on island or off island.
Okay.
Or what's the term in the industry? Principal residence.
Yeah.
Daniel, I know that
Yeah.
I'm just reflecting on your question there about the different demographic questions. What I like about it is because I think it will help us. I mean, I think we've commented on this in some of our meetings around this shift and what's happened, especially since the pandemic, around how people live and work and their relationship to the island. And I kind of think that we need to tease this out a bit in survey. So I'm a bit torn about taking one of them off.
Okay. Okay, and then we ask age. Do you own? So we ask age by a range, which I think is great, in part to see like who's the survey hitting, and who do we need more feedback for. I think that's the goal of this, is like not so much like a demographic of Bowen, but it's like, oh, we've been great at hitting people who are 55 to 70, and nobody over 70 and nobody under 19. It's like that's who we need to target more engagement on. And probably same owner rent. Are we hearing from people who own or people who rent? And then household size. I don't know why
Yeah.
rent is there.
Me
That
neither.
seems like they don't need that. Right? It's like, yeah.
If you're wanting to
okay.
get rid of a
Yeah.
question,
Yeah.
why ask the one about age? Because that is very clearly spelled out in the census data.
No, I think Councillor Morris, that's what I'm saying, is this is more than to help us in evaluating the survey and evaluating how the engagement went.
Yeah, who's what age group's answering, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and then section 5 is help us understand how you'd like to be engaged in future project phases. So how do you wish to be engaged in future rounds of this OCP project? I want surveys, I want in-person engagement events, I want open house workshop, I want other. And then how do you wish to be updated about future OCP engagement? So email from us, notice, social media, posters, notices. And then finally, do you have any other comments, questions? Okay. So that's the whole survey. Made it all the way through. We've successfully cut one question. Councillor Jurgensen.
Okay. So that last question, how would you like to be engaged in person, ties as a perfect segue into what I was going to raise earlier about the survey. I'm more than happy to work with Planner Martin on this, but I do feel strongly that having worked in the disability community here on Bowen for over 15 years, there will be the need for some people to either get help filling out this survey due to technical difficulties on their part. And I think it's very important that we have a message stating that, along with a way for them to get that help, both on the landing page at the top of the survey, and then also in that last question there about how would you like to be engaged in future. We may need one specifically for people with disabilities that can flag that they're going to need assistance in later stages of the process as well.
Okay, great.
Either that or we need a whole separate question on that.
Yeah.
It's optional.
Yeah, because, okay. Yeah, my one piece on that is, I guess we're not capturing, like if somebody clicked, if we said like, I would need assistance, and they said it, we wouldn't have a way to actually track back to them.
Mm-hmm.
So we could ask, we sort of flag of like what's our scale of need for this to respond?
If a person was to respond to that question, a way that this is often done in surveys is please include your contact information. It's usually an extended text box, and that particular response will not be used to track their response in any other way.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that's typically done for anonymity purposes. And I'm sure McElhaney can find a way to decouple that piece of data from the rest. And again, as far as messaging for the top of the survey and the landing page, more than happy to work with you on it, to craft something for that outside the meeting. Just to in the sake of time.
Perfect. Okay, that's great.
Okay.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Daniel, are we through item 4 on the agenda then?
We are not. We're through the survey.
Sorry.
That's okay. No, that's great. So survey done, and then the other piece I wanted to share was the display boards that came through this morning. So this is what like McElhaney would be bringing to the events on the 10th, and then when we schedule other events that people would bring with them to like pop-up engagement activities. Let me share again here. All right, do people see these okay? Adam, your hand's up.
I just had a quick question
Sure.
about the timeline for providing feedback on these display boards and the posters. Like, is that like today? Is that tomorrow? Or like, is that a pretty quick turnaround?
It's a pretty quick turnaround, I think, especially for these that they need to get printed to be
Okay.
there on the 10th. Yeah.
I was just curious if like we could provide feedback on these like after, or if we should
I think
just...
after, yeah, I think by end of today,
Okay.
like, and then I would send them, you know, like my goal would be to send things Tuesday morning, I think.
Okay.
So if people have until, 8:30 on Tuesday morning.
Okay. I'm just saying, I'm just asking because it's 10:50 and just...
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And
sorry again, it's me.
Mhm.
Do we need timeline to get an ad in the undercurrent?
Yes, we are fully booked in. So like for there was something that went on last week. There'll be, I don't know if it's the press release going this Thursday or I think it's the time after. Yeah,
the
so
press
some of that
release
is
sort of
already,
has to go in next Friday's edition to be in advance of the
yep,
meeting on the 10th.
yep, 100%. Yep.
Or this Friday's edition.
Yeah, I don't have that. I think it's in the other room. We have a whiteboard with the timeline
Daniel,
of
do you
the
want me to?
ads. Sure.
Do you want me to? I can let you guys know because I've booked some additional space in the undercurrent for this. So this Friday, there will be a press release that's coming out this Friday. It's been provided by McElhaney, and a letter from the co-chairs, I believe, is also going to be included. We have a reasonable amount of extra space. And then the following week, so that will be the undercurrent that comes out on the 9th, we have an additional page booked once again, and we're going to be communicating that the survey is now live, or is live, and repeat some of the information that we had in the previous week, just to make sure we captured everybody.
Thanks, Sarah. And then I'll go through these boards. So essentially, number one is just that overview. This is the project. We're doing an official community plan update. It's trying to say what is an OCP. It has the link to the survey to go to the page for people just passing by. Can see here's the survey. Okay, so the first one is looking at what values in the current OCP vision statement are more important to you. And so I guess we're giving people with sticky dots to select 3 choices. So there's 6 boxes here to put in. We're asking people to do it. And then down here, it's asking, are there any values or topics missing from the current vision statement that you think should be added to the updated vision statement? Oops. So this doesn't quite mirror the survey language, I think, because the survey is asking about, do you think it should be removed? I think probably because it's like we're asking people to share feedback. We're trying to look for positive thoughts and feedback and not get into people putting up notes of like, we don't need this.
Knowing Bowen people, they'll put something in if they think it should be removed. They'll put a sticky note in.
Right. People can. Yeah. Number 3 is asking, so what do you like most about being on Bowen that should be preserved or enhanced as the community grows? What's missing on Bowen that you would like to have in the community to make life better, easier, or more equitable? And then this one is, what is needed on Bowen to make it easier to get around the island without a vehicle? Fritz, I see your hand.
Yeah, can you go back to, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Can you go back to board 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I find the protection of natural ecosystems and green space. And then if you go to the right, self-reliance and environmental conservation. I think self-reliance as an island is separate. And like the lower left one should be all about nature and ecosystems and conservation. And the right one is more like, do you want the island to be self-sufficient, like as much as possible? Like this.
Aren't these the values in the current OCP?
Yeah, I put these over here.
Oh, they've been paraphrased again.
They've been paraphrased again, so I don't know if our comment should be again, like just copy these.
Yeah.
Because this is like an ethic of self-reliance which underpins decisions where conserving land, air, water, and energy reduces Bowen's ecological footprint. That's the vision or the value in the vision statement. So maybe that should just be the feedback, is like, it should just be the same, like directly track. Yeah. Okay.
Daniel, on the one that you were just reviewing, well, I'll let you do that first before I. So
okay.
We know you can multitask, but sometimes we challenge
yeah. Now you can see it live. Okay.
The vehicle. Sorry, what is needed
Yeah.
on Bowen to make it easier to get around the island? Because without a vehicle means, well, the bus is a vehicle.
Right.
Private vehicle.
Or private, I don't care. But I just don't want people to think, oh, is this just asking me if I want to cycle more?
Right. Okay. Okay, and then this would link to the online mapping. And then
Fritz, I assume your hand was from the previous question.
Oh, yeah, but I kind of wondered, how does it relate to that vision statement? Isn't that as important to generate these questions? Like it writes more about a small scale, friendly island or so,
Sorry, Fritz, what do you mean?
Well, what I meant is if you go to the vision statement, and it's quite agreeable to most people, but that question is really in here. That is more like it's what does it say? It's a small scale friendly,
I think we were saying that we would use the exact language, correct?
Yeah, for this one, just use the same language.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you follow what we're doing there, Fritz?
Yeah, no, I follow that, but I also see this as a user's point of view. You have these 3 boards, now you have to do certain things, and is it in the end sufficient, to reflect what your priorities are or what you want?
You have the option on that board to add others.
True.
I guess my question, with this board is like, is this the like, if we're gonna ask 3, like we'll ask questions about the vision, and then this one will say like, I want these things on Bowen. What do I want? Is this, if we ask 3 questions, is this the 3rd question? I was trying to look at the survey and think, is there something else that would be better in this spot? But
then getting around.
Like this one essentially is question 5 in our survey. What do you like most about Bowen? What's missing? Yeah.
Do you need to write without a vehicle? Can it just be what is needed on Bowen to make it easier to get around?
Yeah, I kind of like that too, in the sense of if I have, which I probably do have, a view that's so ferry centric, I might want to put my comment there around the ferry, right? As opposed to, oh wait, that's just on the island. But what about getting to the island? So it's easier to get around the island. it's a little bit more generic. Right. We have some hands, and I don't know which order they came in. So Councillor Jorgensen, and then Betty.
Mine was just simply around accessibility of these boards and how we're going to ensure that people can fill these out. I raised this a couple meetings back. Is there going to be an option for like these boards to be have an online equivalent to these boards, or is really coming to pop up and writing it in here your only option for this part of the
And I think, yeah, I'm not sure offhand. I think like these are supposed to be essentially the like instead of the survey, like it's asking similar stuff from the survey, but to capture people in place.
So what you're
Yeah,
saying there is
yeah.
if this is reflected in the survey, that captures the same.
Yeah, it would
information.
capture the same. Yeah, this is trying to be like, I guess it is, if somebody wants to fill out the survey, we've got their feedback, and then the pop-ups are trying to be people who like aren't aware it's happening, are happy to sit there and do something while they're at an event or they're passing by, but wouldn't actually take the time to log into their computer and do it that way.
Okay.
Betty?
Back to that one about the vehicle. I think it needs to be open enough to really allow people to unload all the issues, whether it's unsafe footpaths, not having a foot passenger water taxi, ferry schedules, the whole thing, the idea about TransLink doing on demand, all those things could be a catch-all if we get a language that just encompasses.
Like a transportation catch-all. Is that what you're
Yeah.
getting at? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I agree with that as well.
So
Does
leave
this
out
work then if
without a
we're asked-
vehicle. What is needed
Yeah,
to make
so-
it easier to get
yeah.
around the island?
Yeah. And I think that's enough of a catch-all that somebody says, well, what I need a passenger ferry, even though it's not around the island, but that's what I need because otherwise, whatever, I need my car. I need to be able to get, it's going to come from Seymour Bay. I need to be able to get to Seymour Bay so I can get on a passenger ferry.
So maybe can we, going back to Betty's comment about just a more general transportation, it's not just on the island, it's to
So
the
how
island.
about make it easier to get around / on off the island?
Yeah, something like that. I like that.
Or to get around or on and off the island?
What is needed? So it's what is needed on Bowen. So it's like, what are we going to control, I guess, to make it easier to get around on and off the island? Or is it just what is needed? But then, like, if I guess what I don't want is lots of questions that are like, BC Ferries needs to improve their something.
Yeah.
You're
like,
going to
okay,
get that.
you know, yeah.
I mean, and I think that, how we hear about that, we're going to hear it in spades.
Yeah.
So we might as well just provide a space for people to provide that comment.
Right. Okay. So what is needed on Bowen to make it easier to get around on and off the island? Does that, or it's just what is needed to make it easier to get around?
About to, from, and around.
Yeah,
To, from, and around. Yeah.
yeah.
To? What is needed?
Oh, what
to
is,
make it
let's
easy-
make it easier to get to, from, and around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is needed on Bowen to make it easier to get to and from, and around the island?
Okay.
Okay. And then the fourth board is just saying essentially sticky notes, official community plan update I want on Bowen Island. So with the examples I give, dog park, seniors housing, public art, new bus route. So I guess we're already asking about TransLink stuff.
Yeah. Well, this will be other thing. I mean, this is again, remembering this is a pop-up. People have a short amount of time.
Yeah.
This is the
So this
open
is, if you don't want to do anything else, you can just put a post-it note that says, I want a same thing.
Yeah.
I want a swimming pool.
I mean, this is needed, obviously, even if it's a duplicate. And we all know in surveys, some people is like, I've got one issue and I want to be able to make it on every board.
Yeah. Okay.
That's good.
Yeah, so I sent the other material that we've sent, but I don't know if people want to focus on them as well. But otherwise, it'd be like, oh, we may have finished the first item on the list.
Yeah, there was a range of them in the
Mhm.
in your email. Is there any that you specifically think that we as a group need to discuss?
Yeah. So I'll tell you, so they sent posters, sandwich board. There's one that they sent called Official Community Plan Steering Committee Flat Sheet, copy only, which is like essentially like suggested language for how to interact with people. It's asking like if people are going to post stuff online, it's like this is what you could post. Social
So it's
media
like a
posts.
cheat sheet for people who are involved.
Yeah.
How do we find
Yeah.
all these documents? The only two that I got that show up are the ones you just had, the boards and the press release.
I can send the rest. I think I sent some.
She talks about accessing SharePoint and stuff in her, that all the documents are on SharePoint, and how do we do that?
I have access to the SharePoint. I don't think the committee does, but what I sent, so when I sent at 8:30 this morning, I sent the display boards, the sandwich board, the posters.
Yeah, and that's
flat
all that
sheet.
opens up. There's
Yeah,
another little thing under that says 10 attachments, but that's not there.
Oh, they opened up for me. So
Well,
I don't
maybe
know.
my iPad has two. It won't take it all,
Yeah.
so I have to
Okay.
somehow access it on a laptop.
Okay, and then the other thing they sent was the landing page copy. So we currently have our OCP page is up on our website, which we've just populated with like background information mostly, and sort of a header being like coming soon. I'll just post the link in the chat. And then they've sent essentially the copy for that website. I don't know if I want to go through and wordsmith the whole thing, but it's there in the email. Yeah, as well as like a press release that will be going out shortly. Yeah, but I think that instead, maybe if we go back to the agenda to go action items review and then the pop-up engagement events themselves, which is seen when people would like to or be able to volunteer to help do run some of these events. Does that work, Jim?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
As long as, I mean, just a reminder, you were saying that if in any of those attachments that you sent today, if people have some comments, they need to review them before end of day and send them to you, correct?
Yes. I mean, some of them, it's like some of them were able to change going forward and some were not. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. Would it be obvious?
Like if it's the website, well, we can change it. Like if it goes up, it's like, well, it's live. We can always change it. If it's like a press release, it's like, well, it goes out and it's gone.
Done. Yeah, got it. Okay. Okay, so we're moving on to, oh, look at us.
I see a hand. Sorry, I just see a hand from Councillor Jurgensen.
You're muted.
Alex, do you want to go?
Okay. Sorry. This is just regarding again, accessibility and engagement with this. And if you want me to say this during the pop-up portion, I'm more than happy to see it then as well. But as I said earlier about the surveys, like we are going to have to do some one-on-one engagement. I brought this up a couple meetings ago, but haven't seen it reflected really. I think that there is going to be some need to identify which members of our community need that one-on-one engagement to make sure that they can complete this accessibly. And more than happy again to help with that, but we need to build it into our plan somewhere.
Sure, and I think that segues nicely into, so our next item on the agenda was the action items review, which had Steph's name on it, but she is away today, so I will fill in. So we essentially had 6 items on the action items from our last meeting, and item 6 was actually Councillor Jurgensen begin coordination of one-on-one engagement sessions with members of the community requiring such for enhanced accessibility. So I guess that's what we're speaking to, and the need to, like, if the survey goes live May 8th, is the timing, yeah, any assistance you're able to provide with coordinating engagement sessions. And obviously I'm able to meet with people, whatever is recommended or necessary to help people go through once the survey is live, to help people complete it. Or
Absolutely, because that kind of wording about that, and if people do need assistance, needs to go out, and things like the press release is the best case then for me to write something up tonight, send it to you, and then we can meet tomorrow morning if you have any feedback, things that need to be changed, and we can tweak it then. And then you send it to me,
Sure.
Laney. Does that sound fair?
That sounds great. Like if you want to look at even the press release, yeah, focus on that, and we can include wording in that of like if how to phrase it to say like if people need assistance helping the survey, reach out. Yeah.
Okay. I'll try to match the tone of the existing press release for that.
Okay. Wonderful. Betty, did I see your hand up?
You did, but I was going to let it go. I was just thinking, I was thinking about particularly seniors who have a little trouble with technology, and that maybe we could do something related to the library where there's just a helper, one of us there or somebody else at certain times to make the survey accessible with somebody to support.
Yeah, I know in the past for survey, we've had printed copies like at the municipal hall, which we could do again. That's a good reminder to make that. And then, yeah, I can talk to Tina as well and see if they can have, I know I've talked to her about posters and info, but if they are able to
I was thinking about right on the computer
printed.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Make a note.
Daniel, we have two more.
Melanie?
Yeah, I was just going to see if I could give an update on my action items.
Sure.
So I did pop over to, I spoke with Jan at the recycling depot, and they are on board. They're fine with that as long as we don't impede traffic, and they had some thoughts on where we could best place ourselves. And their busiest day is a Thursday.
Oh, okay. At the
And
building center. Wonderful.
And then I also chatted with the building center, and
So that was a recycling center, yes?
That was a recycling center. We got a yes to the recycling center, and busiest day is a Thursday.
Okay.
We got a yes from the building center. I've got their email address, which once we've decided on a day, we just need to get in contact with them. Can't do May 2nd, but that's okay because that's just around the corner. And their busiest day is a Friday.
Thanks, Melanie.
So just let me know when, I'm happy to do the follow-up on that once the day's chosen.
Okay.
Or pass on the contact details to you, Daniel, either way.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you.
That's a thumbs up for both.
Okay. I may just go through these. Kirsten isn't here today, so I'll skip over. Councillor Morris, were you able to reach out? Here it has Hood Point neighborhood, and I think as well as the shed at the golf course.
I got sidetracked and I have sent an email, but I haven't heard back yet.
Okay. Okay.
I don't think it'll be a problem, but I just wanted to try and find a good date. And I think I had the golf course on my list too, but I think between Adam and I, that shouldn't be an issue. And one other thing I wanted to bring up, the art walk is happening, the art tour, and that's the 23rd and 24th of May. The golf course is a site. So I didn't know whether to have another pop-up down there on, on the Saturday or something, because that's a busy golf day.
Right.
As well. Or, do we want to not conflict with the art tour?
But it seems like probably there's something at the art tour that would be good to overlap with an OCP capturing comments.
Yeah, I think there's probably something going on. I mean, the library stage would be a good thing for that day too, because the gallery will be on the tour.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Councillor Getty.
So the art walk is very popular. There'll be lots of on and off island people. But it's crowded, and the people that are trying to sell are taking up as much space as they can.
Yeah.
So if you've got a favorite spot, then you have to talk to Marie or one of the other coordinators in terms of squeezing in another card table or something.
Right.
Well, the
And we
golf
have-
course is probably the one with the most space,
Great.
and it is on the tour.
Okay. The next one was Betty to reach out to Councillor Getty regarding,
Judy's
which
here
is like, oh,
too.
Judy's here. Hello.
Would be June 7th, I guess, Judy.
Yeah.
Whatever this first Saturday is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that good
Perfect.
for you?
Sure.
Is the consultation still open at that point?
Yeah, we've said it'll be till I think the
10th.
I forget if it's I forget if it's the 9th or 10th, but it's like the Monday or
Yeah,
Tuesday.
so that works.
We essentially
Good.
wanted to include that weekend. Yeah. So it's perfect. And then David and Jim draft a letter to Undercurrent about what is about from the chair. And so I know I've seen the draft going around.
And was there, I might have missed that in, was that also, did you reference that's also in the package that you sent around at 8:30?
That's not in the, no, I didn't include that. I think I just.
Okay, well, we'll follow up with that because I know I
Okay.
provided comments. I think David, you did too, and we just haven't seen anything since.
Yeah. Okay. And Council Jurgensen went over. Okay. So those were action items from last meeting. And then, and then the next one was the pop-up engagement schedule. Unless there's anything more to follow up on that from that 5.1 action items, I'll move on to 5.2.
I'll do SK8 day at the fire hall number 2. And No Wall Hall.
All right, can people see my screen okay?
Any chance you could increase it a tiny bit?
Yeah. Is that
better for me? Everybody else? Everybody okay?
So essentially what we have here is we have some that are, flexible dates and some that are events that are like set in time. And so the thinking for them is those boards that we saw from McElhaney, it would be essentially bringing those boards to the event. We'll try to make sure we have it all in sort of a set package of like, here's the stuff you need to do. I haven't talked to McElhaney, but I think like their plan was to print one set of boards, and I'm gonna, I think, ask them to print additional sets. So it's not like there's just one set of boards, in part because we wanted some like permanently here at the community center. Like even that fourth one where it's just like, what does it need, is maybe just in the entranceway, and anybody coming to fitness can be providing stuff.
You're going to need more than one set too, because I'm looking, the farmer's market will conflict with the SK8 date, for example.
Yeah, depending if we end up with multiple. So I think I was gonna ask them, either like ask them to print multiple, or we would independently print more.
Daniel, point of clarification, just before we continue on this, just what we're doing here today. Is the idea that you actually want to identify people today, or would it be better to do that sort of offline, because there are some folks who aren't on the call? Is it just we reviewed sort of the full list before? Do we need to review that again, or what is your thinking?
Sure, that's great framing. So I guess one, it was to review and confirm if there's anything else, if people have thought of something else that like, oh, we should add another opportunity to it. And then it was looking for potentially if people are able to sign up now, or then we circulate as well, looking for a signet, like people to sign up. And in part because what McElhaney's done with their posters right now is their posters list like the events they are at. So they list like, we'll be at the farmer's market on this day, we'll be at the library on that same day on the 10th, we'll be at the walk on the 22nd. If there's other events that we know we're doing, well, we could actually have those listed as well on a poster, or they could just be like additional events and we're just doing them. But if we know that there are certain things that we're going to be attending, it's a question of like, do we want to be advertising them? And then I just thought, given that this is our meeting, I guess before everything starts, if there are ones that people say, yes, I want to do that, I'll sign up for that activity, then we would put it in now, or I could do it after the meeting.
Okay. I just am a little mindful for time. We have about 10 minutes left on this meeting before people may have other commitment. So I just want to make sure that it might be good to just have a quick scan and make sure although we've talked about it before, is there something that is missing or whatnot, and then and let people sign up.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we want to add May 23rd at the golf course as part of the art tour?
Yeah. Can I go through? Okay. So library, we do need to confirm in advance, but to do that library stage, the librarian had recommended afternoons on the weekday or the weekends as prime time. The farmers market, so the May 10th is booked. And then there's like 4 more weekends during our time period that we could sign up for. We just need to sign up in advance. The ferry, so recommendation for that is like, this is to do something on the actual ferry. If somebody is able to hit the commuter or the school commute hours, we do again need to confirm beforehand with the ferry, but they are on board. They're quite excited about it. Or in the ferry lineup. So this wouldn't be doing full engagement. This would be like handing out like a sheet to people about the survey and the engagement. There's no need to confirm that one. Obviously, it's people signing up to come walk the ferry line. Next one is the skate day at the Fire Hall number 2, May 31st, noon to 2. Allison had mentioned she was interested. Okay, and then this is Judy Getty's meeting at Collins Hall on Saturday, June 7th. Judy can maybe say how far in advance she would need us to confirm attendance for that meeting.
Confirm now.
Confirm now. Okay. Bowen Island Legion has their lunch on the May 27th. I'll be attending, and I'm happy to have some of the committee attend as well at that event. I don't have confirmation yet on the Friday dinners if we want to do a dinner at the Legion as well.
Right.
Tunstall Bay Clubhouse, I'm still waiting to confirm. The shed at the golf club. So then here Allison reached out, so we've got May 23rd to 24th weekend is possible because it's overlap with Arts Walk. So that might be the best time, unless you need to confirm beforehand. So the Bowen Building Center. So this is, they can't do May 2nd, the busiest day is a Friday. Or beforehand. Artisan Square. I've reached out to the Strata. They are, again, acceptable. They just want to know what dates we'd be looking at. And again, they're saying, well, a weekend is busier with off-island people, but maybe an afternoon during the week is good for on-island people. And probably Village Square is probably similar in terms of, again, it's out in front of by the parking area. I don't have an answer from the Snug Cove field for baseball. Allison had looked into the Millwall Hall with the Hood Point residents and schedule. The recycling depot, Thursday being the best day. Thursday is the best day. Confirmed advance. The general store and then art walk. I captured up above, but maybe not. Okay. Is there anything missing? Is there anything people know of events happening in May? Is there a missing area of the island or anything else that is lacking?
Do we have Tunstall Bay on there?
It is here, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because that would be an ideal place.
Okay.
Shauna has a say.
There's a Pride Society gathering on June 7th, Saturday, June 7th.
Oh, perfect.
That'll gather quite a few residents with kids and all.
Is that in the Cove?
Yeah, that'll be in the Cove. Yeah, it starts
Wonderful.
at
Okay.
starts at Bix and then goes down to the park. So it'll end at the park, and that's a great place, Daniel, for like a booth.
Okay.
And I think I can help out with that.
Okay. Wonderful.
Can you remind me, Daniel, do we have an official end date to consultation?
Yeah, and I keep saying either the 8th or the 9th. It's like it's after the weekend.
Okay.
So if I forget, if
It
it's
goes
like
into June a
Monday,
bit. Yeah.
it goes into June a bit, just enough to capture that June 7th weekend.
Okay. We have another hand. Is that which of our counselors wish? Okay.
So there's an awful lot of places and there's an awful lot of days, and that would, if it's going to be, advertised in terms of people available to answer questions and help with surveys, that's a lot of time. So, is it just the committee that's going to be volunteering, or you want council involved, or although I'm not sure that everybody's up to speed in terms of all the material, how are you going to populate this?
I think I want the committee and maybe the counselors on the committee. That would be my guess. And then staff, obviously. Alex?
Well, I'm available to help with June 7th. I think most of my other time will probably be taken up with assisting on one-on-one
Okay.
work.
Okay.
That's a fair amount of work all by itself. I'm thinking that might be all of my budget for that time period.
Okay.
A few things on the 7th, don't we?
Yeah, so I think, the 7th is Judy's event. It's the Pride event, and it's potentially, at the very least, it's like the farmers market.
Yeah.
So there are multiple things on that weekend. Fritz?
Yeah, how do you respond? Like, I could respond by saying I'm available, and what may a person's priority is.
Huh.
You know what I mean? Because if you it would be really easy to populate it if you know in advance if somebody is available or really like to do it.
Yeah.
And
I think for the
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I was gonna say, I think I'm open for suggestions of how the committee wants to do this to proceed. Like either we could just make this a Google Doc and have people sign up as they think the time's available, or even like a calendar event, but knowing that, there's quite a long list of options for what we could do.
I don't know if Adam was going to say something differently here. Adam?
I was just gonna ask, like, I know we've talked about SharePoint in the past, but if a Google Doc is easier, like, I think helpful just if other people see that we have a couple people at one event and we don't need like 3 or 4 of us at one in particular. Like, probably 1 or 2 is fine. So if we could like spread ourselves out, I think, and we could see that, I think would be helpful.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Do you want to make that my action item for this is like to circulate a Google Doc version of this, with the intent then that the committee can then, review your calendar and figure out, okay, when do people want to sign up for it? And then I would encourage people to come, if you're able, come at that first farmers market or at the library to check in with McElhaney and also see, how they're running the booth as like a, trial run or a visual guide.
Good idea. So Daniel, we're at our last few minutes of this meeting. So this probably covers that, but we probably do need to have a quick, our next item was to review these action items. Have we been keeping track?
So we reviewed action items from the last meeting, and then I guess we'll circulate after this meeting action items from here.
Off the top, so obviously we have this survey follow-up. You've got some follow-up with McElhaney on the survey questions and some of the boards that we made comment to today, and the sign-up sheet. Was there other things? just generally off the top here?
Not that I can think of.
Okay, so there'll be, so as we, yeah, there might need to be, you might want to think about a follow-up email if it's not just our minutes, because I don't think anybody will notice that if we're missing something. So,
yeah.
Is that okay?
And then Adam, your hands.
Sorry.
Sorry, that was a holdover hand up.
Okay.
Okay.
And I'll just say, I'll say it too. We have our next meeting scheduled May 13th. So it'll be just after we've started, just after that first weekend. So hopefully then we'll bring to that meeting, like where people have signed up, what the events we know are happening to coordinate. And then if we have more coming, people can always offer at that point too.
Okay, sounds good. Fritz, is this on the action items?
Just the links, because I also couldn't access all the links, like the updated documentation from today.
Okay, so making sure that that's all working. Okay.
Oh, okay. Just before people drop off and we lose our quorum, any other business that we need to discuss today? Oh, seeing none, I think. Or is that Fritz? Was that hand up from before?
No, I just took it down.
Oh, okay. All good then. Okay, so I think we are at the end of our agenda. Let me see if I'm missing anything. So yes, our next meeting, May 13th at 11, and this one's in person. I think that is it. I want to thank Daniel for I know there was a lot on here that you had to go through, and never mind all the follow-up you're going to have to do. So thank you for that. So I think our meeting is adjourned. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
everybody.
Bye.